We are the first generation of mothers expected to raise peaceful children, while every screen in the room is designed to make them restless, impatient, and addicted. Welcome to Womenfolk Revival, where we are deeply rooted and wildly intentional. I'm Maggie.
And I'm Mira. And I've been thinking about this. I think we're the first generation in history that ever had to be bored. And I don't know if that's a good thing because when we were kids, boredom was normal. You sat in the
Mm-hmm.
car, you looked out the window when you were going on vacation. Excuse me, you played outside, went in the backyard, made up all kinds of random games that I think I made a few up when we were in kindergarten, and I remember to this day there was those sewer drains in the back of our school, and I used to
Mm-hmm.
make up that game called Pizza where you had to jump on the sewer drains because those were like pepperoni circles. And like I would come up with all kinds of random things. You just figure
Mm-hmm.
things out, but
You do.
now the second children are bored or say, "Hey, mom, I'm bored," there's that screen just right there ready to entertain them. And honestly, I don't think it's just affecting the kids. I think it's affecting us too.
It's affecting us too because we are having to compensate that for our children,
Mhm.
you know? Whereas I can remember there were times when I was growing up where I would get bored and there were moments when I would struggle to figure something out. I can remember talking to my mom, but it wasn't a problem that she had to fix or like something that she had to teach me. I knew how to use my imagination. In fact, I had quite an overactive imagination, so
Mhm.
much so that, she was concerned and had to talk to my doctor about it.
Mhm.
So that was not something that I had to learn, but every once in a while, I would kind of be stumped on, like, what should I do? But it wasn't like it is today where they're just totally lost.
Mhm. They are.
And luckily my kids are, I would say they're probably above average on being able to come up with something, especially lately. The three of them working together, they are playing so much that even when they do have their screens, even when the TV is on,
Mhm.
they're
They're not paying
ignoring it
attention. Yeah.
to play and to do other things.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm very grateful for that because I do think that we did um, implement tablets and TV way too early.
Mhm.
And I think that's just because, we are also adamant about them being outside and not, just totally unaware of their surroundings when they do
Right.
have electronics.
Right. Especially in the summertime when well, not this week. Well, for us, we've been outside this week, but it's just scorching hot. But like in the
It's
winter,
so hot.
then you have to figure out what to do. But I know we touched a little bit about this on last week's episode, but I
Hmm.
felt like it was something we just kind of had to come back and revisit. Um, I feel like it's important to discuss. Our kids they had devices as I said in last week's
Hmm.
episode, but not anymore. They don't have devices. We do still have TV, and that just seems more and more unusual every year anytime I go somewhere and people are like, "Oh, your kids have this and like, the latest phone or whatever." And I'm like, "My kids they don't have social media. They don't have any of those things."
Mm-mm.
Um, but everywhere I go, I notice everyone's looking down at
Everyone is looking
restaurants,
down.
at the park, at family gatherings. Everyone it's
Yeah.
like everyone's together, but they're not really together. And I just
And it's dangerous. It's
it's what?
so dangerous. And I see
Oh, it's
women doing
dangerous,
it all
yeah.
the time.
Mhm.
And women
Mhm.
especially, we have to be alert because we are always a target because men are physically stronger. We're always a target. Children are targets. They need
Mhm.
to be aware. I mean, for years and years and years, children get abducted.
Mhm.
This is not a new thing, and it's becoming even more and more.
Normal.
common, they have
Yeah.
to be aware. Women have to be aware, and even men have to be aware. We were, I don't know, driving to the zoo or something, and we see this guy walking down the street, and he's looking at his phone, and then there's a man that's walking towards him, and obviously you can tell this man is not in his right state of mind, like, he's, you know, mentally
Somewhere
something
else.
is wrong with this man, and he
Okay.
looks mean and agitated. And we're like, "Dude, you gotta look up because this guy's gonna attack you or something." He didn't attack him,
Mhm.
but that's what it looked like, and it very well could have happened.
Yeah.
And especially walking on a busy road, with people being on their phones in the car, you could very well get hit by a car
Oh,
with,
yeah.
not paying attention.
I've been
It's
guilty of that.
scary.
It is very scary, and I keep wondering what we're losing because of this, I do wanna add that even if you aren't on your phone, just think of how scary it is just constantly looking down because I'm gonna bring up a time where it was about 7 years ago. I was in Bahrain with my husband, and our 2 elders at the time were really little, and we were walking in the mall, and I was holding their hands, and this really nice lady, she was in burqa, she was completely covered. You couldn't tell her facial expressions or anything, but she came over, and you know how you could tell when people smile, how their eyes kinda go up? So I thought she was smiling, she waved, but then she went to reach for our daughter's hand, and she was walking in the opposite direction. And I'm like, "Wait, what?" And I, like, took her back real quick, and my husband's like, "We gotta get out of here." So it can happen anywhere. It can
Can
happen
happen
even if you are paying
anywhere.
attention. It was so strange, and that is the safest country. I feel so safe there, they're not allowed to have guns or anything like that, and, I mean,
That
there's
makes me feel unsafe.
what, that they don't have guns?
Uh-huh.
Nobody does, except for except for the police on that, but I've in general that it's a very safe country, but it can happen anywhere,
It can
and
happen
even if you
anywhere.
are paying attention. So, um, it's very scary, and the one thing I've noticed about screens is it doesn't just take up time, they replace things. They replace the most important thing to me, which is conversation and eye
Yes.
contact, you know? Um,
Connection. Yep.
yeah, yeah, and quiet moments, and,
And
those
we've
matter more than we realize.
and we've discussed before that connection, human connection is so important for
It
your
is.
health, everyone's
Mhm,
health.
mhm.
And we're
Yeah, you
robbing
can't
that from our children at a young age when,
we are.
we're not connected with them. I
Yeah.
I know recently I have, and my husband talked to me about it, and I was like, "Wow, I didn't even realize." But I was, I'm with my children all day long. And,
Mhm,
we're trying to do the podcast and some other things, and we're renovating our house, and we have 2 acres of wild land, which we love it being wild, but it does have to be contained in
mhm.
ways and managed,
Yeah.
tended to. And I was caught up in all that stuff that I wasn't really fully connecting with my children. I didn't have that special time with them.
Mhm,
Now luckily when they were born, I practiced attachment parenting, and, I nursed for 2 to 3. Edgar was 3.5 years. So
mhm,
we had a lot of that, so that was naturally instilled with them. So this little moment in time where I got completely, taken away from it, and thank
mhm.
goodness my husband was brave enough to say something. He could have said it nicer, but it's okay. I'm thankful that he did because that's not who I wanna be, and I think it's so easy,
Right.
especially for us mothers, that we get caught
Caught
up
up.
in that stuff, and we don't,
Mhm.
even though I'm essentially interacting with my kids every day, it's not real, genuine connection that we
Connection.
were having, and I couldn't
Yeah,
believe that I had gotten to that point, but it can
yeah.
happen no matter how intentional you are, it can happen.
Mhm. I've been trying to become more conscious of being in that moment with my kids because there's so many of them, and they're, all coming at me at once sometime most of the time,
Mhm.
so, um, you know, it's a learn in progress. I still have to feel like, "Okay, it's too much, you guys have to, back off a little bit," but they just need that attention, like you said. I nursed as well, all my children, not as long, about 2 years, and we still co-sleep with our youngest,
Mhm.
and then the other 2 are still in our room. Um, we think it's time for them to kinda get their own space, but we wanted them near us for that connection. Even though we're sleeping, it's still that sense of security for them and for us.
Mhm.
So,
For me
yeah.
too. I sleep better when my children are with me because
Mhm.
I know that they're safe. I
They're
know that
there.
they're
Mhm.
fine and everything's okay. And when
Yeah.
they're not with me, I constantly worry. I hear noise and I'm like, "Oh my goodness, is that, you know?"
Mhm.
It's and they share a bedroom right now. And I actually my husband was out of town, so I built this huge fort in my kids' room. And they've been sleeping together and they're more together than they normally would be.
That's funny.
And they're cozy and they're happy. And I like that better to have my children in
Yeah, all together.
individual rooms and separated.
Mhm.
Man, that just gives me anxiety thinking about it.
It's funny you mentioned forts because on my nights off when I'm home, my kids wanna build forts, and my 2 older kids wanna build forts, and then they have let the 2 younger ones, the youngest is still with us in our room, but, like, our 2 other younger ones will go and sleep in their room with them in the fort, and tonight I was gonna let them build a big one in here in the school bedroom so that they can all just be together and maybe watch a movie, so, yeah.
Yeah,
Forts are fun.
they're so fun.
Yeah.
And I think it creates a little cozy,
Imagination.
protective area, yeah, where it can be, just a tiny little world for them. And
Yeah.
my kids build forts all the time, and they're constantly doing it in the living room, and they bring
Oh,
all their
yeah.
stuffies out,
Dining room
all their
table.
blankets, all their toys. And I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like, "Hey, let's do this in your bedroom. It can
Yeah.
stay up for, for a while until I have
Yeah.
to, like vacuum and dust." But
Make
I'm like,
dinner.
it can be days, it
Yeah.
can be out here. It's like if we build one out here in the living room, it's coming down tonight or tomorrow, it's just the way it is.
Or as they build it, my kids like to build forts at the dining room table, and then they put their heavy metal water bottles on top of the blankets, and I'm like, "This is not gonna work," and then
Oh,
you hear
yeah.
water bottles clanking all over the place. I'm like, "Can we figure something else out?" So,
My
then I get
kids do
involved.
that
It's like, "Well,
with
turn the chair around and put the blanket like this," and then they're all excited that I'm getting involved, and then it gets
yes.
really loud, and I get upset. Yeah,
I I expect noise with children. I do, but I am
I do
very
too.
sensitive to I
Me
get
too.
over
Stimulated.
yes, with
Mhm.
loud noises and my body physically hurts if it's just
Mhm.
it's nuts, but I've always been a more, just a quiet person and um
I used to go ahead.
used to what?
I used to love kids being loud, but
Oh,
now
I
that
never
I've
have.
hit perimenopause, because I used to be loud myself, but ever since perimenopause with all these hormones, I get frustrated really a lot easier, and I notice that
Mhm.
I do, and so that's why I have to take, like, extra
Hey,
time to realize, calm down.
we'll need to do an episode on this because well, we should do one on perimenopause, but
Mhm.
we also need to do something on hyperthyroidism because I am finding that that is very common in women
It
and
is.
it makes motherhood especially extremely challenging.
Mhm.
And I wonder I thought I saved this video. I follow this doctor and he was talking about it. But I didn't save the video and now I can't find it, of course. Um, but talking about not having energy
Mhm. Yep, it's all related.
and he was talking about all these other symptoms. I'm like, yeah, I feel that. I feel all of those things. And now I'm
Mhm.
wondering, man, and it's something that I keep hearing more and more about.
Yeah, me too.
So we should definitely do an episode on that because I
And
think
that
that's a
also
big part
happens.
of what we're talking about right now.
It does, and that's also true in other countries as well because a family member of my husband's just was diagnosed with that. So, it's interesting. It's very interesting.
You know,
But,
screens
it's what?
are a big challenge, but I
Mhm.
think they're a bigger challenge because of our health also, because we just
Let it
physically
go.
aren't, and it's easier for us to rely on that sort of thing.
Well, and we're not able to
Um,
prepare for taking care of ourselves in the future. Nobody's thinking about how to take care of your body to prepare it for the future, to prepare it for perimenopause, to prepare it for
yeah.
menopause, to prepare for after menopause, you know? So yeah, that's definitely a discussion that needs to be had. But the other day I was thinking that about how many memories from my childhood came from absolutely nothing, no
Mhm.
devices at all. I didn't have one until I was out of high school, which is wild. But riding bikes, exploring, and
Mhm.
just making things up as we went. And I just wonder if we've accidentally convinced ourselves that kids need constant entertainment when all they really need is just that space to create imagination.
They just need their childhoods back,
They do,
you
because
know?
boredom isn't the problem. That's the
It's
beginning
not.
of imagination and creativity,
Yes.
where they solve problems as we discussed in our previous
And if
episodes.
you I'm not so sure how I fully feel about Albert Einstein, but, he is the pinnacle of, intelligence, and he
Mhm,
always spoke on how imagination and creativity were more important than,
mhm,
book knowledge, um, or at least, it's the beginning of what learning should be. And so
mhm,
many more people are, and they've been talking about it for years, but it's becoming more and more impactful now, of people discussing how, children, they need this. They need the boredom to use their imaginations and creativity, and that makes them better learners. And, of course, we heard that, the school system was set up by Rockefellers to have workers, not, inventors and um people that really thought for themselves. So,
mhm.
oof.
Well, hear me out. How many people actually sit and watch the sunset anymore, or just sit outside without their phone and see, like, what's blooming in their yard or what
They're
bird is
watching other
visiting their
people do
feeder,
it on
because
their
I'm obsessed
phones.
with that. They are. That and it's funny, but it's really not funny. It's just
It's
like we're
not.
connected to everything and everyone all at the same time, but we're becoming disconnected from the world that's just right there in front of us. And it's not about
Yes.
technology being evil because, we have technology right now. This podcast exists because of technology. So that's
Yes.
not the issue. It just becomes an issue when we start replacing real life and conversations and family
Yes.
and being
We
present.
need
And then
we need to be intentional
we do
and
pay attention.
um and smart about how we use AI.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, and just start small, in our family, again, it's about rhythms and that connect us together because we are by no means perfect. But we have family dinners. We may not all sit at the table because there's not enough room, but we're still there present with one another, or working outside together, or cleaning the house together, or I'm still working on it, cooking together. Um, and reading or simple conversations, because if we're not intentional with this, like you just said, then something else is always going to fill that space. And most of the time, it's going to be a screen because that's all there is anymore in society.
Yeah.
Um, and I think one of the biggest hurdles that families are facing today isn't technology, it's about the attention. Who gets our attention? And what
Yes.
gets our attention? And what kind
Mhm.
of life is that creating? Um, Where does it go? Usually
And
followers.
who's getting our energy?
It's a big
This is
one.
a rabbit hole that we won't get into, but these things were set up to get our energy.
Yeah.
That is a real thing,
Mhm.
Um, they're called, there's people that do this too when they're called some kind of vampire. Do you know what I'm talking about? Not real
No?
vampires, like bloodthirsty vampires, but they're able to take your energy and you feel drained after being with them.
I know people
It's a
who
real
take
thing. Back in the day, I knew someone that was very it was I can't even
draining.
explain it. I can't even explain it. It
That's
was,
wild.
you know, but later on in life, I started, hearing about this here and there, and I'm like, wow, but it's true. There are ways that you can like take people's energy away from them.
Yeah.
And these devices are doing that,
The evil eye, I
you
believe
know.
heavily in. Um, Sometimes when our kids
Celebrities
get
are
really
doing
sick,
this.
my husband will say,
Hollywood.
"Someone gave them the evil eye," and it's crazy the things that people can do. That's like you said, that's a whole 'nother discussion as
The
well.
world is not how we know it.
And it's really not. It's
It's
really not.
not.
They're distracting
We've
us so they
been
can take our energy.
yes. Yes.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
before we close today, we would like to leave you with this. Your children probably won't remember the videos that they watched. They won't remember what was trending, and they won't remember most of what happened online, but they will remember the dinners with family,
Mhm.
traditions, conversations, laughter, and how your home felt.
That makes me emotional.
Me too. Thank God it's not me. Look, she's emotional. In a world where everything is fighting for our attention, one of the greatest gifts we can give our family is presence. Oh gosh, I have got
I
to
know.
stop with these
I
endings.
can't believe I'm joining you here.
I mean, but it's emotional for us. So put the
It
phone down
is.
once in a while, listen to the story, take the walk, watch the sunset, because these ordinary moments become memories that last. Okay, now, next week we will be talking about something I think almost every woman can relate to: why we're so exhausted.
Yes.
We'll be talking about the nervous system overload, hormones, chronic stress, productivity culture, and why rest is not laziness. Until
Hey, and
next
let's
time,
add hyperthyroidism into that.
let's do
That
it.
would work perfectly.
I think it would. So until next time,
Stay rooted and stay wild.
stay wild.